In this video, we're going to take a look at two more functions that help in converting strings to lists or vice versa from lists to strings. At some point, you may need to break down a large string into smaller chunks or smaller strings. And to do this, in Python we can use the split function. So as a developer, all we need to stipulate is the character that we want to split on. So let's take a look at some simple examples. So firstly, if I were to convert the string hello into a list, I could use the built-in list function, and when I execute this code cell, you can see that we get each character in the string represented as an element in the list. So it iterates through the characters in the string and simply stores them as separate elements in the list. If I were to pass in the string red, blue, green into the built-in list function, once again it iterates over every character in that string and represents it as a single element in the list. But what if we wanted to split this red, blue, green string into three elements, where the first element was red, the second blue, and the third green? Well, we're able to use the split function. So let's first of all set a variable called colors and set this equal to red, blue, green. What we can now do is split this string on a character of choice. So if I put colors, which we know is that string object, and then access the split method. So if I put dot split and then open parentheses, you can see that when I look at the documentation, this function accepts a parameter called sep, and it's currently equal to none. Sep in this instance is the separator that we want to choose, and it will then return a list of the words in the string using sep as the delimiter string. In other words, it will cut up the string wherever the separator is observed. So if we pass in a comma as the argument, you can see that when I run this code cell, we return red, blue, and green as three separate elements in the list. And that's because the original string is split wherever there is a comma observed. So if I wanted to, I could store this in a variable called colors_list. And then when we take a look at colors_list, we have that list accordingly. If I now want to store these three elements in three separate variables, well, we can unpack the list, and this is something that we will see when working with tuples, but as an example, we could put A, B, C, which is us defining three variable names in one go. We can then put equals, and then we can put colors_list. And we're able to do this because we know there are three elements in the list. The first will be assigned to the variable A, the second will be assigned to the variable name B, and the third C. So if I now take a look to see what's stored in the variable A, you can see that we bring back red. So let's carry out one more split example. If I create a variable called sentence and set this equal to I am a random sentence and I love learning Python. Let's say that we wanted to split every word into its own element. Well, here we'll need to then split where there is a space, so we can put sentence.split, and in parentheses we can pass in a space as a string. You can then see that when I run this code cell, we get every word in the sentence represented as a single element inside of the list. So we've just seen how we can split a string into a list based on the separator that we define, but we can also work the other way round. We can also join elements in a list and convert it back to a string. So for example, if I assign sentence.split with the space to a variable name called split_sentence, and if I take a look to see what's stored in split_sentence, we get that list of 10 elements, which is every word in that original sentence. If I now first of all put the string that we want to include in between each element, so if I simply wanted to recreate that sentence, we know they need to be joined together with a space in between. So if I put a space, then a dot, we can access the join method, and inside parentheses, we can pass in the list that we want to join. So if I pass in split_sentence and then run this code cell, you can see that we recreate the sentence, I am a random sentence and I love learning Python. So it's taken every element from that split_sentence variable and joining them together with a space in between. If we remind ourselves what's stored in the colors_list variable, you can see that we have red, blue, and green. So if I create a string where we first of all start with a space, then the word and, then a space, we could then put .join. We can then pass in the variable colors_list, which is that list object. And if I run this code cell, we return red and blue and green. So we're adding the and a space either side in between the joining of each list element. So keep this in mind for when you run into the use case of needing to split a string into specific elements, split by a specific separator, and a use case where you need to join list elements back together to form a string, joined by a specific character or characters of choice.